Hi, this is Steve, and I'm here to share my experiences on a Cunard cruise to the Caribbean from December 30th, 2025 through January 20th, 26. I traveled with my brother in law Ken and my sister Lynn. This is my sister Lynn Frankenberry, and this is her husband Ken, at least the back of him. Here is the front. And of course, this is me, Steve Barrick. So let's get started. So we disembarked from Miami, Florida. This is on day one, December 30th. This is a view of my cabin. It was very small, but the space was very efficient in space utilization, so it didn't feel small. So after leaving Miami on that first day, it was just a sea day. Of course, it was New Year's Eve day. This is a view from my the balcony of my cabin. And of course, that evening we celebrated New Year's Eve on the ship. And we had the opportunity to take some pictures, including of me with the Queen herself. On day three, our first stop was Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. This is a map showing its location. From the ship, we took a small boat to the shore. We headed for our first destination, Hell. That's right, H-E-double, Toothpicks, Hell, a real town.
5 districts, West is the one and only Westmead.
This is a famous spot in Hell for pictures, obviously. A lot of people will send postcards from Hell to their friends, etc. A lot of fun. And then we took some pictures of some of the Hell chickens running around. The town's name actually comes from these rock formations which are in the area, which kind of look hellish, I guess. And yes, more chickens. We got tired of this eventually, but they were on all the islands and they were actually quite beautiful, some of them. Our next stop was at Tortuga Rum Factory. We had an opportunity to do some silly posing with some of these things there and having little bits of free tastes of rum and a rum cake as well. And at the end of our sort of best of tour of Cayman Islands, we went to a beach area on the one side of the island, and it was the first chance to go to the beach. It was relaxing. It was a halfway decent beach, not the best ever, but it was still kind of fun. I don't remember why Ken's arms are like that. Day 4 on January 2nd was Montego Bay in Jamaica, a region that had been recently kind of clobbered by a hurricane. This is where it's located. We then took a ride to Negro Beach, quite a distance away. We got to see some of the poverty and devastation from the recent hurricane.
That's how they used to.
And then at Negro Beach, we did have an opportunity, at least a couple hours, to kind of relax, check things out. It was pretty nice. We also had an opportunity to grab a little food and as well as experience some of the local beers. Day 5 on January 3rd was a sea day as we were heading towards Honduras to see the island of Roatan. He did give us an opportunity to kind of relax. I drank a lot of champagne. They keep leaving bottles of champagne in the room, and some people were giving us bottles of champagne that they did not want to drink. I ended up drinking about 3 bottles in total during the entire trip. We also did go to a wine tasting on board, which was kind of nice. Some of the wines were excellent, and I took some of these photos of the ones that I'd like to someday find again: Italian wine, Greek wine, um, and along with some food, cheeses and stuff. It's a lot of fun. And then of course was back to sitting on the balcony again, drinking more champagne. On day 6, we arrived at Rotan, which is a island off the coast of Honduras proper. This is a view from my balcony when I woke up in the morning, basically. When we got off the ship at Rotan, we were actually in Moatani Bay, and this is us getting off the ship and walking around and taking a look at some of the pretty grounds around there. From there, we headed over to an iguana preserve, where we had an opportunity to interact with the various iguanas. As you can see, I wasn't scary, but I was more worried about one of them peeing on my arm. There were it is a preserve, and there were certainly a lot of them there. You could play with them. We even had the opportunity to feed them big leaves that they would chew on. It was kind of fun.
Guys, Richard Rope, come on her.
And then after having a look around, we headed over to the chocolate factory, where we had a chance to get some samples and buy some chocolate as well. Next, we got back on the bus and headed to a cameo factory, where they had some interesting art. Next, it was over to the Rusty Fish, where they reuse essentially garbage to make interesting art and gifts.
After me, yeah.
Up to you.
But let's not have a poll out.
Right. Yeah.
Something small like
And then finally, we ended the day with, again, some beach time on Roatan. Then on day 7, it was time for Costa Maya in Mexico. After passing through the port area, we loaded up on another vehicle to head to one of our favorite spots, I think, to see the Mayan ruins.
This part, the family is obtained a piece of land at a low coast. But as you can see, the services are very basic. Streets are not paved. Working on that, but it's going to take time.
Hey guys.
They go their heads backwards.
We saw a lot of beautiful sunsets on our trip, but this is one of the nicer ones. Day 9 was a sea day as we headed back to Miami. The reason why we headed back to Miami was so that some of the passengers who were on shorter trips actually disembarked, and it was also a chance for new passengers to come on board. It turned out most of the passengers disembarked, and only maybe a few hundred remained on board, such as ourselves, for the Eastern Caribbean. The next day was a sea day, but of course we were anxious to see who our new dinner companions would be. The previous ones had disembarked and did their vacation. But unfortunately, there were none. We ate alone. Fortunately, however, during the day, I was able to capture a spectacular view of a double rainbow. On day 13, we arrived at St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The capital city is Charlotte Amalie, as you can see there in the distance. It's not a small, it's not a big town, it's pretty small. After disembarking, we walked around the town a little bit. It was beautiful, very picturesque. And then we noticed this, and we decided we had to do it. The price was right. It was pretty inexpensive. This takes you up to a high point to get a great view of the island. And indeed, the view was spectacular. One ticket got you right up to the top to take a look around, and then also included the trip back down. There's our ship off in the distance, the Queen Elizabeth. Oh, perfectly normal. Don't panic.
I'm not panicking. If this fell. What?
Are there any other cars?
Yes. Fake smile. Don't look terrorized. And of course, we had a little time to be silly. And the ride back down was equally spectacular. There's our ship off in the distance again. Afterward, we had a chance to walk around and visit the downtown area, if you will, of Charlotte Amalie, which is the, if you can call it the capital. It's a city or town of about 8,000, so it's pretty small. It has several main streets that were fun to walk around with lots of shops and restaurants and, so, you know, other things to do and eat and drink and buy. And of course,
Hey,
like all the
guys.
islands of the Caribbean, there were chickens. Come closer. What's wrong? Are you chicken? Oh, come on. Step up. Our next stop was Antigua and Barbuda. We went, there are two islands, separate islands. We went to Antigua. Specifically, we disembarked in or near the town of St. John's. In St. John's, Antigua, we walked around the downtown area. The city of St. John's is about 20,000-ish people. It's the largest on the island. The area was a little bit hilly, as you can see. There's a view of our ships. We stopped at this St. John's Cathedral, which was kind of neat, and had an opportunity to examine the architecture as well as go inside. And then after getting our steps in, we walked around a little bit on the way back to the ship. On day 15, we went to St. Lucia, near the city of Castries. We then hopped on a bus, basically, and went on a tour of some of the interior of the island. It was quite a fun ride, bumpy. Some of the streets were kind of scary, imagining myself driving on them at least. But we saw some beautiful things along the way.
Please wait for me. I'm coming with.
Okay, we'll wait here. One of the places we went, Lynn likes to practice this Wicca thing of grinding, touching stuff. I don't know.
$1 to use the restroom. So it's only 15 minutes here.
On day 16, we went to Barbados, the town of Bridgetown. Barbados is the easternmost of the islands we went to.
The hurricane belt, so it's not quite often that we receive lashbacks or what we would call in the past.
We got on a bus and headed to Gun Hill Signal Station. It's one of the most important military outposts in Barbados, and it was used for just that, signaling invasion. There were, I believe, about 4 of these on the island at one time. In addition to the history of Gun Hill Signal Station, it was a great place to see the rest of the island from the heights, and it was a great area to see some of the natural flora that was just gorgeous around that area. For example, look at this spectacular view of the island. I was able to climb up into the tower too, and from that vantage point, there's some very interesting photographs that I was able to take through the gun holes, I guess, that were there.
Gorgeous.
Day 17 was a sea day. This is a view outside my balcony. It's surprisingly very relaxing to sit out there and just watch the empty ocean. I suppose we had a good dinner and walked around and did some other stuff. The next day we went to Philipsburg, St. Martin. St. Martin's an interesting island. Half of it is Dutch, half of it is French. We went to the Dutch side. After a nice breakfast, we got off board, and we didn't have any particular excursions. We did have one scheduled, but it was canceled later. So we enjoyed just very much walking around the port area and going into town as well. The weather was beautiful, perfect, maybe a little too hot, but it was a wonderful time there. I'll note that to actually get off at St. Martin, the boat was too big to actually park there at a port, and so we had to take a small boat, a tender over to the shore. Lynn loved the idea of getting on a bumpy tender, but actually it was not too bad, and as I said, the scenery is just gorgeous. Philipsburg, the town there, is very small. It has like four streets. One of them is basically a boardwalk along the ocean. So we spent some time walking around the area, enjoying the sun. It was pretty darn hot, and we enjoyed looking at some of the stores and shops along the way. I'm not sure we bought a lot, but it was fun. And then, of course, we walked along the beach as well. The beach was pretty decent size. It was beautiful. The water was deep blue. We did a lot of walking around, and we also got to enjoy some of the local food. This is ceviche. Lynn did not like the dish she got, but I did. And then we headed back to the ship and got back on board. Day 19 was the British Virgin Islands, the island of Tortola. Since Tortola was our last excursion before heading back to Miami, our goal was to get to the beach. And that's where we went, had a wonderful ride to the beach, got to see a lot of the island along the way. Beautiful homes, beautiful flowers and flora. It was a gorgeous last stop. Day 20 was a sea day. We were heading back to Miami for the last time to disembark. So we just took it easy. Again, this is a view from my balcony. Very pretty. We also had an opportunity to explore some of the food and drink that we hadn't had yet on the ship. They had a health bar. I forgot what they called it, but they had some delicious juices. Day 21 was also a sea day on our way back to Miami from the British Virgin Islands. Again, it was kind of a time to unwind and start packing as well and start preparing for disembarkation. Then early in the morning on January 20th, we landed in Florida. Our last stop on the trip.